Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime Review. This is part 4, and this one I'm reviewing the 4th season of the series Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. This one is basically the Orichalcos season, the season where Yugi fights a guy called Darts. Yep, it's not exactly, how should I put this? It's not, well, one of the more popular seasons of the show, because this was not from the manga. This is completely original for the show. Some people just don't really care for this one. I mean, it's not like for the first half of the previous season where some people just didn't like that one. This one, I've never heard anybody talk about this particular saga very much because it does build on the show's mythology and does bring back characters simply who haven't been seen in a while. Like, one is, of course, Max and Pegasus. First time anybody's seen the guy since season 1. And they also brought back Rebecca. First time since the two-parter, Wrath Rebecca. And also, for some strange reason, she's developed an infatuation with Yugi. Much to Teia's irritation. I'm not kidding. She is in love with Yugi. No idea why. She just is. As for how old this girl is supposed to be, I don't know. She could be 10, 12 years old. They don't specifically state exactly how old she is. Originally, she was just a cute little girl, and she comes back. She's basically traded her teddy bear she had back during season 1 for a pair of glasses. She's a lot more smarter. And, of course, that she constantly crushes on Yugi for absolutely no reason. And I'm like, what is the attraction to Yugi? Because he beats you in a duel? Is that the reason why? Yeah, oh, also, Yugi never went to use a Tem, because usually when he goes to a duel, he goes like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Becomes a Tem, and Tem pretty much does a lot of dueling. That one he never did. He stuck normal. And he defeated her, and the whole thing was over the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Yeah, it's quite bizarre. Yeah, it was one of the most bizarre things that the series did. Yeah. Okay, now the season starts off with the Yugi gang, basically Yugi, Joey, Tristan, and Taya going to Damacy Museum, and of course, well, at first there was these bikers who tried to steal the Egyptian god. Well, first they tried to use the Egyptian god cards on the tablet which had been left there by Shizu. Yeah, for some reason, after the events of season 3, even though she's supposed to be the curator of this exhibit, for some reason she decided to go back to Egypt and leave everything there. And this is supposed to be an exhibit. She's supposed to be in charge of this exhibit, and yet she decided to go back to Egypt and just leave it there. In the show, they don't bother to explain. I mean, they do kind of explain they try to build her family. Fine. Couldn't they do it in Domino City because she's supposed to be in charge of a freaking exhibit? And what does she do? She goes back to Egypt with her two brothers. And of course, Shizu and Merrick are never seen again. I think Shizu is referenced once in episode 1, but now, as for, let's say, what was the outcome of the duel between Joey and Yugi, the off-screen duel, it was never revealed at all. It's implied Joey won and got the Red Eyes Black Dragon back. The only reason I know this because he's using it later on when he's fighting Mai. Yep. It's like certain things for the season just never bother to explain. Okay. They do explain the whole thing with Darts, where apparently he is a man who's lived for over 10,000 years. And apparently he's lived by stealing people's souls. Okay. And of course his 3 henchmen are all bikers that he has screwed over. No, seriously. It is later revealed that he is responsible for all their tragic backstories. Though Alistair, the shortest one of the 3, he doesn't get much of a backstory at all. The one that gets most development is probably the blonde hair guy. What's his name? I had to look him up here. Let's see. His name is Ironheart. I don't think it's Ironheart. It's Raphael. Yeah, I think it's Raphael. Yeah, he's the big tall guy with blonde hair. He gets the most development out of all of it, basically, because he had the most tragic backstory. His family was on a cruise, and the cruise ship sank with his little sister on board, and he was the only survivor. It was later revealed that Dart was responsible for causing that crash in the first place. And that could explain why it took him a while to get everything forward. Now, after the whole thing with the whole, the tablet thing, the hieroglyphs, somehow it gets frozen with the Egyptian god cards. That's never explained. Yeah, by the time you finish the season, it's like, okay, how in the world did the god cards even do that? And then later on, basically, the thing is unsealed, and there's not much of it. There's some explanation, like, oh, they got the god cards back, so yeah. And they later on, basically, they sort of, well, Weevil and Rex sort of wander into the city after the Battlestate tournament is over. I thought these two left. Heck, it's even referenced by that. I thought these two, like, he's like, I thought you left town after the whole tournament was over. It's like, no, I decided to stick around because I wanted the god cards. Even though the god cards are extremely dangerous, and yet Weevil, the cheating guy he is, he really wants them. So he attempts to steal it from Yugi, somehow, and somehow then later runs into the three bikers who work for Darts. They steal the god cards, but there's also a guy, basically, they had to fight and they would try to get the god cards back. An old man who's described to be one of the most weakest members of the order, and he uses Seal of Orichalcos, and this seal is basically in a form of dual card. They play it, and there's this giant circle that surrounds them, and whoever loses gets their soul trapped in the card. So basically, they're retreading Pegasus. Yeah, heck, it's even a reference that Pegasus did a similar trick to this back in Season 1. So basically, they're reusing an old thing from Season 1, but Pegasus didn't do it on a constant basis. He only did this like 3 times. So, they decided to make this the gimmick of Season 4. The whole thing of stealing souls. Yeah, the whole stealing souls thing. And after the card cards get stolen, well, of course, you get a chance to fight one of the gods. Obelisk beats it, and of course the old man loses. He throws the god card to Raphael. The guy gets sealed, and the old man just like the Rare Hunter guy from Season 2, never seen again in the show. As a matter of fact, I think he's referenced once after that, but otherwise nope. And apparently, Darts' base operations is this giant tower on this island in the middle of nowhere. How very original. It's very typical to have for a villain to have their lair on an island in the middle of nowhere. This is very unoriginal. Yep. And he wants to collect all these souls so badly, and he keeps spreading things. Oh, the Pharaoh was evil, and he unleashed dark spells on Egypt, stuff like that. It's this bull crap that keeps spitting out most of the season. And I'm like, last time I checked, Darts, it's never mentioned he ever actually went to Egypt, and yet he's spreading lies about the Pharaoh's reign. Yeah, this is something that's... It's like basically they had too many things they wanted to do with the season, and they never wanted to do much with it. I do like the Orichalcos stuff, yeah. But later on, they get invitation to fly out to San Francisco. Yeah, they fly from Tokyo to San Francisco because apparently Domino City apparently is a fictional version of Tokyo. They fly from Japan, they head to America, they take a limo to what looks like was supposed to be Pegasus. They're supposed to go Dust Illusion's headquarters, but the limo just somehow stops at a deserted some kind of deserted, I don't know, rest stop, and the limo driver gets out, and the limo driver himself was never seen again. He just disappears. Whole thing with the bikers thing, and it turns out My Valentine is one of the bikers. Now, they do explain how she gets recruited to the bikers. Yeah, it's explained in a flashback. At least there's some things to the season that are explained. Other things, just no bother to explain at all. And she fights Joey for the first time since Season 1. and she's basically acting a bit different than usual. And how she kind of got this way, it's never fully explained. Her attitude toward Joey and the rest of the gang, like apparently they abandoned her. When did this happen? Because the last time we saw her, she was perfectly fine, where she just went off on her own, and yet she blames them for abandoning her. What? Yeah, this is never explained. Yeah, actually is kind of explained. Basically, Dart's feeding her lies, and she does duel Joey twice. The first time she actually nearly loses until Alistair decides to step in and sort of unseal the orichalcos with his ring. Yeah. As for how in the world does a piece of jewelry unlock a special spell? Yeah, that by far never explained. Yeah, this is only used once and never again. And of course, Maya gets ticked off. Everybody like, don't interfere in my affairs. Storms off. Of course, she's seen one other time after that. She fights Joey. After Joey defeats, what's his name? Valen. Yeah. After he defeats Valen, and it's kind of implied Valen has a thing for Mai. This comes completely out of nowhere. He's the one who recruited Mai into the organization, and he never fed her lies. Not necessarily no. He just basically thought some of the stuff, basically what he did. And some things about him is never bothered to explain either. He's a guy who apparently has a thing for Mai, even though Joey had a thing for Mai longer than he knew Mai longer than he did. And these two fought a very good duel. Whole thing with armor, and Joey get his own armor, and eventually, of course, his armor is basically a representation of the Red Eyes Black Dragon. He beats him. And then Mai shows up basically to take on. He basically sort of loses on purpose to her because he really cares about her, and everybody knows he still has a thing for her. He also, before this, he also duels a couple other times. He does duel Rex Raptor. Yeah, Rex and Weevil somehow get recruited into the organization. Yeah, apparently they volunteered. They weren't simply just forced into it. They just like, oh, we want to join. We want to get revenge on them for apparently abandoning us. Yeah, it's quite bizarre of how they could connect. Even Darts is kind of annoyed by them. It's like, okay, fine, give them cards and give them orichalco stuff and give them those weird-looking dual disc. Yeah. Now, Weevil fights Yugi for the first time since season 1. Yeah, it had been 3 years, show-wise, basically, since they fought. And they dueled on top of a train. And, of course, Weevil and Rex and Joey duel on top of a train as well. Of course, Weevil and Rex both lose their respective duels. Actually, Weevil loses this duel, but then when Yugi fights against Raphael, for some reason he's able to steal the card, the Seal of Orichalcos, and uses it on himself. I'm like, okay, this is a bit bizarre. And Raphael beats him, and instead of basically taking the fair like he wanted to, it took Yugi. So basically, Atem basically runs the body throughout the rest of the season until he beats Darts. But at least Raphael didn't come back empty-handed. He came back with a soul, made out of the Pharaohs, but came back with a soul. Let's see. Kaiba basically doesn't do very much of this most of the season. He just, somebody's buying up stock in his company, and it's all did with this whole Darts organization. And apparently Darts has got 2 bases. He's got the island base, and he's got this sort of office base. And also, briefly, Darts gets control of the Kaiba Corp headquarters. Yeah, as for how this happened, this is not fully explained. There's one episode which I actually missed it when it aired. I had to catch it on reruns. Of the Kaiba and Yugi breaking into the tower, and there's actually smoke coming from the tower, and they later basically sort of break in and free from Dart's control. As for Kaiba himself, he only duels. He duels Alistair, who is the tomboy who looks like a girl. I don't know why. Yeah, he duels him twice. The first time apparently looks like first he drags him to Duelist Kingdom, which actually is the first time that the island itself has been seen since season 1, which, okay, that's actually quite cool. The fact that they went back to this island. But here's kind of the thing. Who the heck is even there? Because Pegasus is nowhere to be seen in this island at all. Yeah, Pegasus somehow gets defeated off screen in a duel against Maya of all people. Yeah, she duels Pegasus, and she wins somehow. And so yeah, one of like few duels basically Maya does do, and this is actually one of 2 that was actually completed. Because her first duel against Jelly was actually not completed because it looked like she was going to lose, and of course Valen had to step in. Raphael himself dueled at least twice, though the second time he dueled against Yugi, he sort of freed himself from the Seal of Orichalcos that got low inside of him. He tried to use it again, but he failed, and he got beaten. And there's a line said by a Navy guy. He says, so the fate of the world is left in the hands of a card game. Yeah. And of course, Kaiba and Yugi do, well, Kaiba and Atem, I'm going to call him the Pharaoh at this point. Kaiba and the Pharaoh go to fight Darts as Island Fortress, and they duel him for quite a while. Let's see, how long does this duel last for? I'm trying to cover as much as I can for this thing. This duel lasts for 5 episodes. Well, actually 6 episodes. Yeah, 6. And then, of course, basically, they have a 2-part conclusion to this duel, like right after this duel with the Great Beast. Awesome duel. Of course, Kaiba gets eliminated halfway through it. And, of course, Yugi wins. Ever gets back to normal. Apparently, Rex, Weevil, and Valen and Mai are sent to these various beach houses across the planet. As for where the heck these things are, no one bothers to explain it. As for if Mai meets up with Joey again, not that I know of. As far as I know, Mai is not even seen in the final season of the show because this last episode, though she's seen in the end credits in the 100-episode series, which I'll get to that in part 5, but throughout most of the rest of the series, this last episode of season 4 is her last actual appearance in the series. We will to return later. Also, Duke Devlin is seen this season. He doesn't do very much. He just pals around with them, drives around his fancy car because, well, he's expanding his business of he basically is in the U.S. for a tour for Dungeon Dice Monsters just to promote the game. It's interesting though that the gang gets a chance to go to Industrial Illusions headquarters and see all these rare cards. I think Yugi takes one of the cards as well. It's a great opportunity to expand on the mythos of the show, basically, to do this. But otherwise, though, it was an okay season. It wasn't terrible, as a lot of people probably thought it probably was. I've never heard anybody talk about this one. It's just that there was numerous plot holes, and just that certain things weren't explained. It's not, like, even though I kind of thought of it, you probably think of this review, like, it was a terrible season. No. Darts was interesting. I thought he was a very interesting villain. Seen a good much. He got good screen presence, just like how he basically got the maximum Pegasus treatment that he had in season 1, and got the same treatment that Merrick did. Basically, give him a good amount of screen time, and made him interesting, even though some other things in the show were never bothered to explain. And Alistair, he had a gripe with Kaiba because his late stepfather sold weapons to the country he lived in, and basically destroyed his hometown, and killing his little brother, apparently. Yeah. I'm sure there might have been stuff that's been cut, but I don't know what was cut from that was in the 4Kids version, because I watched the 4Kids version. This season was probably, out of all the seasons so far, probably the most darkest season out of the entire series so far. It's a bit of a disappointment. It's actually, it's a good season, but just that it had some minor problems, like certain things never explained. Where did these characters go? Oh, and by the way, the trio that were introduced in this season, Raphael, Valen, and Alistair, never seen the show ever again. They only seen for this one season, and they never ever come back. As Rebecca, she does come back. for the first half of season 5. Yeah, her and her father do come back, and they're actually sort of part of the entourage throughout most of the season. At one point, she actually books tickets for them to go to Florida, and apparently at the start of the season, her grandfather actually discovered Atlantis. And then for some reason, I have no idea why Darts did this. Apparently they destroyed the ruins of Atlantis for some reason. Yeah, they never bothered to give an explanation for that at all. But at least that, well, the only reason why that Rebecca's grandfather was seen there was to explain the whole thing with Atlantis. That's really the whole point of it. The Atlantis stuff did play a little bit in it, but to have something from a villain from even further back from the Thames time, interesting, nonetheless. But that's all I gotta say for this season. So that's it for this part. Stay tuned for part 5, where I talk about season 5 of the show, and of course talk about Capsule, what takes place between the Grand Championship and the Millennium Arc. I will talk about that next episode. Okay? But until then, I will see you there. Bye.